Hello, friends. I'm Cassandra Harris-Towner.
And I'm Daiana Bernard.
And as licensed mental health counselors, we're unpacking the quiet, complex griefs that don't come with a funeral, because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge.
Welcome to the Living Loss podcast. We are so glad you're joining our conversation as we name these losses and create a meaningful path forward together. Please subscribe and share this episode. It helps us grow this community and reach others who need to know that their grief is valid. Let's dive in.
We talk about quiet losses on this show, and today we're looking at the trap of always waiting for the next perfect chapter.
It's funny how I can think of different parts of my life, from being a little girl to being an adult, wanting to buy a house, and always thinking that the future me is going to know better, do better, have all the answers, and many times be happy.
Mm-hmm. And I think we were discussing it briefly yesterday, how I remember being 10 and thinking that being 13, I was going to know everything and have all the answers. And at 13, I was like, okay, I don't know any more than I did when I was 10. But when I turn 16, then I'll know. I'll have all the answers. I'll be able to drive. I'll be able to do the thing, because then I'll be a full-fledged teenager. And at 16, I was like, all right, well, maybe when I'm 18. And when I'm 18, that'll be the ticket, because then I'll be an adult. And I turned 18. I was like, well, hopefully 21 will change something. And nothing ever felt any different. I know logically that I'm a much different person now than I was when I was 13. But the idea that that 13-year-old had about me being a 40-something was probably way off.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not nearly as old as I thought it was. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh my God.
Mm-mm.
Oh my God. 20 was old. And that's the joke right now with kids. It's just like they have so much fun. I don't think we had as much fun calling older people boomers, or I don't even think we even had that word at the time. But they have so much fun calling us old now.
My niece will quite frequently be like, whatever, millennial. And I was like, since when is that an insult?
A bad word?
Like, come on now.
That's so
it's like,
funny.
I don't even know what you are. Like,
I know.
it
You're a
cracks me up.
baby. That would be an insult. Well, you're a baby.
So we'll kick it old school style.
Right. And the interesting thing is that when you're saying all your ages, I can remember each one as well, because I remember wanting to be double digits. And I think at the time was like to be able to hang out with my older cousins and be older. I remember 13. I swear I was going to feel different. I'm like, I'm going to feel so different. I'm going to be a teenager. And then jump to 16 as well. In Latino culture, we have either a quinceañera or a sweet 16. And I remember one of my cousins, she had a sweet 16. I was like, oh, I'm so excited. She's like 2 years older. So excited to turn 16. She's like, nothing's going to happen. And I'm like, what? You're wrong. Something's going to happen.
There's going to be like a pomp and circumstance, or going to be blessed with the knowledge of the universe. Something is going to happen.
Then 18 is like, I'm legal. The heck does that mean? It wasn't life-changing, unfortunately. And same thing for 21.
And it's this idea that we automatically assume that this idealized future me is this incredibly rested superhero who never gets overwhelmed, who never has a bad day, and who is going to have the wherewithal to just kind of take care of everything and know everything and do everything. And it leaves the present day us to deal with whatever messy reality that we're living in. I know sometimes I'll be like, future me is going to hate me for this, or future me is going to thank me for this, whatever it is that I'm doing. Or I'm just feeling overwhelmed and looking towards the future for when this was just a memory.
Yeah. When is this part going to end? As I think about it, and I'm going along with you, I can hear how we want to know what's going to happen. So it's like we want safety and we want control, and we don't want to suffer, because life is hard enough. And it feels like most of the time that you're going from one thing to another. And it's like, okay, when is it all going to be done? And all the fruits of my labor, shows up and I have this ideal life.
I was just thinking, I live with generalized anxiety disorder. I'm just kind of anxious all the time. And I like to think about the fact that I can't really remember what I was anxious about a year ago.
God,
So,
doesn't
like,
that
and
suck?
no, it's great. I love it
Well,
because it
yeah.
lets me know that a year from now, I'm not going to remember about what I'm anxious about right now.
Yeah, I was thinking it sucks because it's like, why was I anxious? Look at the time that I wasted being anxious. That would be me because I would feel robbed, and I often do, feel robbed of, man, if I wasn't blank in the past, I would have been enjoying this or that, right? It can rob us of actually living the present that we are living. I feel a lot of that in parenting as well,
Mm.
because I'm like, oh, when my little one is more independent, and then we're not enjoying the stage we are in now.
And there's a lot of grief wrapped up in that, right? That's kind of the whole point of what we're doing here today is talking about the grief that's connected to that. And I know that we have similarities in the fact that we have two older children and then one that's quite a bit younger. And I find that I am more present with the younger one than I was with the other two when they were little, just because I know how fleeting this time is. And that even gives me grief about the sort of parent I was to the other two. It was always go, go, go. We have to get this done and not really understanding the stages of life that they're in. And now 10 years later, I have this 4-year-old and I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing today. And it's okay. Everything is all right. And I grieve a little bit not having taken that time. If the past me knew what the future me knows, then it would have been a little bit different.
I think that we hear often people on television or on social media talk about writing a letter to your past self, or what would you tell yourself, your present self, what would you tell your past self? And how would that help you? And I noticed that most of the time, whatever you're telling yourself, your younger self, still applies to you today.
That's probably why it's a really good exercise.
Yeah.
And then I'm the one that likes to burn it afterwards. Let's write these letters and then set them on fire because we need to release it somehow. Whatever that hope is, whatever that expectation is, whatever that grief is. I don't really want to release the hope, but it kind of releases it into the ether, if you will. It allows for it to have more of a reality base if we just let it go, let go of the expectations, and it gives us more hope and makes it possible for us to live with that sort of grief in a more manageable way.
Yeah. I think what we let go in that moment too, like you said, is not the hope or wanting the thing or it's still applying to you today. It's letting go of the desperation for it.
Hmm.
Or if it's something you want to let go of completely, letting go of that desperation to keep it with you and whatever you think it's doing for you.
And that's something you and I were personally talking about not long ago because I have a hard time holding on to memorabilia things, things that I don't know what to do with, things that I can't seem to part with, but don't really want to hang on to at the same point in time. I really, really struggle with that. And I think a lot of that is the what if. What if the future me wants this? What if the future me feels like they can't live without this? What if, what if, what if? And like I said, I live with a whole lot of anxiety. So sometimes that wins. And other times I just realize that I can love this and release this. And that's okay too.
Right. And we're going to get a bit into what the psychology of it is. And when I think about things we want to hold on to, we're thinking about our future self. What if we need this? What if we can use this later? Or what if I'm going to miss it? But we're talking about present us.
Absolutely. And we can kind of live a little bit more in the present when we release the expectation of the future us. So if we, like you said, break it down, it's that future self disconnect.
Mhm.
we have this idea that, based off of research, that when we think about our future selves, our brain activity looks exactly the same as when we think about a complete stranger. And because of that, we idealize this person that this future self is going to be. We are taken by surprise when we get to that future self. And it's the same thing as it's always been. It's just a slightly more gray version of ourselves.
Mhm. That's a lot to expect from a stranger. We have this stranger, that person that we're talking about that is us in the future. We don't know them, and we put so much idealism, as you were saying, to this person who's going to have this bandwidth that we don't have right now, this patience that we don't have right now, the knowing of whatever that we don't have right now. They're also going to meal prep, do the chores, have work life balance, have everything done so flawlessly.
Listen, if future me can meal prep, I would appreciate them to come back and teach me how to do it now because I would love to get on that bandwagon. I just ain't got it in me. And there's that temporal discounting, the tendency to prioritize immediate comfort today, which is not meal prepping, while offloading
Hmm.
all of the heavy lifting, all the things that I want to do to the future me. So she'll take care of it. She'll figure this out. She'll get it done. And
Hmm.
we subconsciously believe that our future schedule will somehow miraculously be less busy. Like, oh, I will have more time to meal prep or to work out or to be mindful or to take vacations or all those things in the future. And then the future comes, and because I haven't changed anything now, it's still the same shenanigans it's always been.
Right. And I do have so much compassion for us, even for myself when we're going through this, because it's what you were saying earlier about that discomfort and pain. So we're going through pain, and it's hard to say, I'm in this bad situation. And yes, maybe when I get a divorce, or yes, when I get the new job, or when this milestone comes, that I'm going to feel better. And that kind of eases us, makes us feel a bit calmer, that there is that hope, or maybe a sense of control, that we're going to be okay. And at the end of the day, when you do get the divorce, when you do sell the house or buy the house or get the job or move, you're still you.
There's the idea of wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
And it's always going to be the same idea that whatever problem I have here, I'm just going to take with me into the next set of circumstances unless I do something about it now.
Yeah.
So, like this idea of the fresh start, like I used to be really bad about, I'll start this on Monday. I can't do
Mm.
anything on Friday. I can't do something new on Friday. It's got to be a Monday thing.
Mhm.
Years
Mhm.
ago, I stopped making New Year's resolutions because it didn't matter anyway. I realized that if I wanted to change something, I had to just do it today. I couldn't wait for that Monday. I couldn't wait for that January 1st. I couldn't wait for that birthday or that Christmas. And to set ourselves up for those milestones is a constant state of grief because what happens when we choose not to change anything?
Right.
I remember even like studying for our state boards.
Mhm.
Like, I put that off as long as I possibly could because future me was gonna take care of that, and,
Mhm.
when I got a month out and still didn't know anything, I was shocked and grieving that future me hadn't suddenly taken care of that or wasn't great at studying or all of the different things that I didn't do anything to change. It was really hard to realize that now is the time that I have to do something.
Yeah. It sounds like in all of it, we're making our present day self just feel bad and put ourselves down, and not realizing that those features or those aspects of that future self are within you. You are all those things, and you have to allow yourself to be sad for not having things as you expected them to be, or not being as good or as perfect as you thought you were going to be at this thing. I do see a little bit of a shift on social media, where people are saying, like, not Pinterest. Like instead of saying like Pinterest worthy or Pinterest fail, they're saying like not Pinterest, but it works for me. And I think that's a good shift because that comparing will always just be a trap.
And that's the hard part. It's the comparing even of ourselves, comparing this future self to our past self, comparing all of the different versions of me. And that's where we can get caught and up in like the regret and the grief and the pain and all of the suffering that goes along with not allowing ourselves to be exactly who we are. And when
Mhm.
we're constantly comparing ourselves to someone else or something else, then we can't actually live in the moment.
When you were saying that phrase, like wherever you go, there you are, I
Hmm.
remembered a book that, dare to say, changed my life. I think it's funny when people say that, like, this book changed my life. But that book was super impactful in my life. And it's called Going into Pieces Without Falling Apart. And I can't remember the author, but I will put it in the show notes if anybody's interested. And that is one of the concepts that stuck with me.
Hmm.
And even if I still did the thing of thinking my future self will be better, I still went back and said, no, but that's still going to be me. And that's what the process may look like for us to change that. I'm not going to be a better person when I'm 20 pounds lighter. I'm not going to be a more successful person when I run a 5K or a marathon. It's still a version of you. Yes. Can you have more discipline or get things from accomplishments? Of course. It's most of the time, it's not the accomplishment itself, it's who you're becoming through the process. And it is still you.
It's everything that you've learned along the way. It's this idea that whatever we're doing now is setting us up for whatever it is that we need next. Because yes, wherever I go, there I am. So if I keep hyperfixating on the things that don't go right, if I keep hyperfixating on the fact that everything is going to be different in the future, then everything's going to stay the same when I get there.
Yes, absolutely. And when we talk about living loss, it's when we're in the thick of it. And we tend to do something that's called delay tactics. We push it away. And pushing away is actually a strategy, a coping skill that does help. And you can't just do that. And you can't push away so far that you'll say something like, I'll finally process this relationship, or I'll finally process this breakup, or the passing of my grandmother when work slows down, when the kids are out of school, or when the kids are older.
And we can take it in the moment that when you finally reach that next stage and you realize that you're still the exact same person that you have been this entire time, recognizing the grief surrounding that, but also giving yourself the grace to know that in this moment, I can be a little bit different. In
Right.
this moment, I can make a little bit of a change. Because if we keep pushing it off, if we keep using these delay tactics, then nothing's ever going to change.
No, and that's when we realize, wow, 5 years have passed by. And we're like, what just happened?
Hmm. And those 5 years go quicker than any other time period ever can.
Mm.
We have touched on the pandemic and all the different
Mhm,
things in previous episodes. That was
mhm.
6 years ago now.
I know,
Almost
wild.
not quite to the date, but almost. We're about 2 months out from when everything shut down. And like people talk about it in passing, but those were some really huge changes that happened for people. Not only was there so much loss during that time, but there was also I believe our career counseling professor called it like the shift in the great job change or something like that. There was a name, and like so many people were home and realized that they hated their lives and hated their jobs and hated all of these things. So made huge changes where they had more control over their day to day and more ability to do whatever it was that they actually wanted to do. I have a friend that if you ask him what he does not tell you about his job. He tells you about where he's traveling to. He tells you about what he does for fun. He tells you about what interesting hobbies he's taken up. He's never once told you about what he does for work unless you directly ask him what he does for work, because work is not what he does.
Mm, I love
Work is
that.
what provides the life that he wants.
That goes back and reminds me of what you were saying that you don't do New Year's resolutions. I don't do them either. And I do set an intention. And that man sounds very intentional.
He's incredibly intentional. Like,
Hmm.
if you looked up the word intentional in the
He
dictionary, you
would
would
be
see
there.
his picture next to it in all of his glory.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we're thinking about the present you, is about loving on, being friends with who you are right now, having compassion for who you are right now, right? Because how do we bridge that gap between who we are today and who we hope to be, right? And the work is in stopping and stop waiting for that imaginary perfect future self.
And there's also I'm just also thinking, like, there's that feels like a lot of expectation, right? So if I've spent my whole life setting my future self up for whatever disaster it is that I'm creating today, there can be a lot of guilt and shame surrounding that, and realizing that I need to be more focused on where I am, where my feet are. So I can work towards being more present. I can work towards refraining from offloading all of the heavy lifting to the future. I can practice that self compassion. I can allow for the tired and messy version of myself, knowing that this is taking steps towards being that future self I want to be, as long as I can be kind to the one that I am today. There's a lot of grace that goes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. A theme that I heard a lot during COVID, it was and I felt the same way too, was the unknown. And people used unprecedented so many times.
Hmm.
And everything is unknown. When we're done recording today is unknown. When I leave this room is unknown. Everything is unknown, but it was really in such a massive scale and in our face that we were like, everything is unknown. The predictability wasn't there as we understood it and we knew it.
And it comes back to that idea of control. We never really have the control that we think that we have. So every day, every moment, like you were saying, is an unknown. And things are going to happen that there's no way that we can predict or plan for. The entire world shutting down was something that nobody could predict it or plan for. And those that could may or may not have. I don't know, because I wasn't in those shoes. I didn't plan for it. I had no idea I was going to spend
Absolutely.
4 months at home with my children.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
that was quite the time.
Quite the time. And as we wrap up today's conversation, we're moving to our favorite part of the show. It's the Living Lost Lessons. This is where we bridge together everything we've talked about with tangible takeaways that we can use right now.
These lessons aren't about fixing the pain, but about finding a way to carry them. Sometimes it's a tool to practice, and other times it's reflecting on the meaning you've built from a loss you've never asked for. It's the strength that you've gained even in the midst of the hard stuff. So, Diana, what would your one ish living lost lesson be that you've learned from this journey?
I feel like I'm in the thick of it right now, and I am, right? Grief is so layered, right? And when we lose someone we love, we're losing that person, but we also lose that part of ourselves as who we were with that person in the world. And one thing that I'm working through now is the very real grief of having to slow down. Today we talked a lot about like our future selves and those expectations. And what I've been working on is actively is to lose those expectations of who I thought I would be today, June 2026. Because if you know me, it's not that I don't do resolutions, but I do set massive goals. I do set a lot of high expectations for myself. And me navigating this season of grief and that thought that continues to pop up in my head all the time is that I'm wasting time. I have to continue to remind myself that I'm dismissing the work that I am doing every single day, that I'm not valuing it as the big accomplishments or the milestones or whatever it is that I'm doing, right? That what I'm actually doing now is the hard work of letting go of the expectations I had for myself and the productivity. That grief does take away those things from you, but how about if that's for me, right? Maybe if it's this forcing me to look at the future in a different way, to look at myself in the present and forcing myself just to exist in these micro moments and to notice life. And that is like a real time, my living lost lesson. Cassandra, what living lost lesson would you want to share today?
I don't know if I can follow that.
Well, I'm not
But
gonna share anything, but like we had a great conversation on Monday. And I think it really applies to our conversation. I know that this is why we thought of this episode,
mhm.
right?
The idea that I have right now when I'm thinking about the conversation that we had on Monday, when I'm thinking about what's going on today and what's going on with different people that I care about, I just need to know and need to remind myself and need to remind our listeners that it is okay to take the time that you need. It is okay to address the things that you need to address, and it's also okay to release the things that you can't hold anymore. Because as corny as it sounds sometimes things just happen the way they happen, and honestly, sometimes they happen for a reason. Unfortunately, the last, recording that we did, I wasn't able to be there for. I wasn't able to be present for, and in hindsight, I realized that there was probably a really good reason for that, and as much as I wanted to be there, as much as I felt I needed to be there, it wasn't something that my present self could wrap its brain around until my future self looked back and was like, "Oh, this is why that happened." So there's things that happen today that we don't quite know why they're happening until we get to that future self and we can reflect back on. If I reflect back on the way I was when I was 13 and I thought everything would be better at 16 and 18 and 21 and 30 and 40 and all these different things, I would be this vastly different person. I am, but I'm just not in the way that that 13-year-old predicted. So, giving myself to appreciate each stage as it happens while realizing that I can look back on the stage before and not necessarily with regret, but with reflection.
Mm-hmm.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah. That's such an important message. That reflection piece as well. Well, thank you, Cassandra. And thank you to all of our listeners for being a part of our circle today. Remember, by sharing this episode, you're helping us reach someone else who's carrying their loss in silence. Let's keep growing this community together. Share, subscribe, follow, and know that your story matters.
And just as a reminder, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While we are therapists, we are not your therapist, and this does not replace professional mental health care. If you feel like you'd like to speak to someone, please reach out to a professional near you. And thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay.